Hello everyone, the Paris Prime is my first ever Prime weapon in Warframe. It was gifted to me by a lovely friend and I have been using it for the longest time in Warframe. After a lot of power creep in the game, I have stopped using it, of course, like many people did, but now it's gotten a breath of fresh air with the Incarnon evolutions and the Incarnon adapters. This weapon, with its Incarnon form, might resemble a weapon that we all know and love. Is it better than that weapon, and what weapon am I talking about? Find out in, of course, today's video. But before we do start, we do have to pick our Paris of choice, and of course in this situation I picked the Paris Prime just because it has the highest stats, which is of course, you know, that's normal because we have the MK1 Paris and the Paris itself, so yeah, the Paris Prime is definitely the way to go. Nonetheless, you might be asking yourself, well, Gaming Weasel, what weapon does this Paris Prime Incarnon mode actually compare to? Well, we all know it, we all love it. It is the Nautaruk bow, which we all got for free after completing the quest, which I forgot the name of. But nonetheless, is it better than the Nautaruk? Well, that is up to you. In my personal opinion, yes it is, because it doesn't have that perfect shot mechanic. Basically, what the Incarnon mode does for this weapon is transforms it into the Nautaruk in the literal sense. It seems to be doing more damage, having an increased fire rate with the modding and also the evolution setup that I have ready for you in today's video, and it doesn't have the perfect shot mechanic. You can fire it all the way, you can fire it any way that you actually want to, and paired with the perfect Warframe, like for example Gyre, Gauss or Harrow, this weapon can be incredibly good. But let's first start off with the actual evolutions themselves. And now for the evolutions themselves. The first one being, of course, the Incarnon evolution itself. When you put on the adapter, you already have this one. Evolution 2, we have two options, Deadly Pace and Guardian's Might. Guardian's Might increases damage by 20, with overshields by an additional 74. This is a good one, but I rarely use Warframes where you have overshields, so this is basically nothing to me, and that's why I picked Deadly Pace. And there's also another reason, but we'll get into that in just a second. This increases the damage by 20 as well, and when your Warframe's I guess sprint speed is 1.2 or higher, you get an additional 80% fire rate. Now keep this in mind, most of my Warframes, if not almost all of them, have above 1.2. Now, 80% fire rate is incredibly good because this bow's charge up is pretty slow in its Incarnon mode. Without this active, so let's just quickly go down here, we have 0.44 plus all the modifications on the actual weapon. If we do change the Guardian's Might, it goes to 0.8. So this 80% is incredibly good. Evolution 3, Ardent Trigger, Marksman's Focus and Swift Deliverance. I never pick projectile speed because this could be band-aided with a mod, so I don't use this. Then we have Marksman's Focus, 30% minus zoom. This is okay, I guess, but as I said, this is not anything great. But Ardent Trigger on punch through hit, 40% fire rate for 6 seconds. You're gonna be punching through enemies all the time. If you line up at least 2 or 3 enemies, you are pretty much set. And more fire speed is very good on this bow. So if we go change it here, it won't change it, I guess, here, but because it is punch through, it's gonna increase this one, so 0.44 minus 40%, it's gonna get increased even more. Evolution number 4. We have 3 ones here. Vicious Promise, yes, Vicious Promise, Elemental Balance, and then Striking Succession. Vicious Promise might seem like an incredible evolution. Increases critical chance by 40% on undamaged enemies and the critical damage by ×2. Keep this in mind. When it says undamaged, it literally means undamaged. If your Smita Kavant, or for example, let's say your Panzer Profiler, damages or even applies a status effect on an enemy, that is counted as damaged. Because, keep this in mind, it means totally full health, full armor enemies. So for example, your Smita Kavant, let's say, attacks an enemy, you want to kill it, then the 40% and the 2 times is not going to work. It doesn't directly correlate with the weapon, it just correlates with the enemies. So this one is awful. Elemental Balance increases status chance by 60%. this can be band-aided with a mod, so we're not gonna pick that one. And then Striking Succession on hit increases damage by 15 for 3 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. So basically 60 plus damage. This is incredibly good. Even if the other two were a little bit different, I still would pick Striking Succession because, well, you're gonna be striking a lot of enemies. So getting more damage is going to be incredibly good. So those are my evolutions. They're the ones that I use. If you have maybe different ones, do leave it in the comment section down below. But since we covered this, let's move on to the most important section, which is of course the modding section. And now for the modding section, we of course have Hunter Munitions, Viral, and of course the typical Bane mod, depending on which faction you are fighting. Of course, critical delay and vital sense for chance and critical damage respectively. Prime shred for that extra fire rate and that juicy punch through. This weapon on its Incarnon form has innate punch through and on its base form, but pumping it up is going to be even better. We of course have terminal velocity to increase the projectile speed. As I said in the, well, I guess evolution section, this is basically a band-aid mod to cover up that second evolution. Now we do have split flights for multi-shot. Now this maxes out at 400% and it does reduce accuracy. Now why does reducing accuracy actually turn out to be a good thing? Well, you fire off 5 arrows. If your accuracy 100%, then you're basically going to be hitting the same target all over the place, which is highly unlikely anyway, but the good thing about this is your arrows basically spread around. The good thing about that is you have chances to hit more heads and charge up your Incarnon form much faster. With this mod, I did try to use, and I did actually use a galvanized chamber. Honestly, with this, I charged up my Incarnon form much faster in like 80% of the situations, and plus 400% multi-shot. Who doesn't want that? So we are using Primary Merciless as well, Primary Deadhead, an incredible option depending on which one you want to use and if you want to aim for heads or not. Now, a couple of things that I want you guys to keep in mind. The Incarnon form itself is not considered AoE, so that's why Split Flight works, and second of all, it does have impact and heat as its main damage. Now keep this in mind. A mod that you can use if you really want to is Internal Bleeding. Impact status effects have 35% chance to apply a slash. Why is this worse than, of course, Hunter Munitions? Because this, first of all, has a lower chance, but it is applied on criticals. It's not applied to impact. You can proc impact, but you could also proc viral or heat. So the best option is of course going to be Hunter Munitions. Another mod that I maybe would change around, it depends really on you. If you do not have split flights, I mean it's a mod that costs around 130 platinum, but it's a niche mod for bows. Use Galvanized Chamber, it doesn't really matter, it's all up to you. But basically, I am using this build, I like this build, it really all depends on your playstyle. But nonetheless, back to the actual video and to the final thoughts on this Incarnon weapon. So that was the Paris Prime Incarnon, one of my favorite weapons added recently into Warframe, or I guess updated would be the better term to use. I loved this weapon before and I love it even more now. As I said at the beginning of the video, in my opinion, it is better than the Nautaruk. It really depends on your playstyle and on your opinions. For example, as I said, there's gonna be people that love the Nautaruk, there's people that are gonna love the Paris Prime. The main difference is, in my opinion, that of course the Paris Prime doesn't have a punch through and doesn't have infinite ammo, and the other thing, and of course the most important thing, it doesn't have slash damage, but you have Hunter Munitions, so you're pretty much not really worried about that aspect of the weapon. But nonetheless, I'm really interested in hearing your comments down below. Which one do you prefer more? Hope you guys enjoyed the video, hope you guys enjoyed the build. This has been your lovely host, the Gaming Weasel, and I will see you guys on the next one. The Gaming Weasel over and out.